Hello everybody, my name is Shonetta Bagbo. If this is your first time on my channel, you're most definitely welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, I'm sorry because I have not been on in like forever. I can't even remember the last time I posted a video. I feel like it's at least been probably, I don't even know, maybe like 6-7 months. But you know, sometimes distance makes the heart grow fonder. So I'm happy you're still here. I'm happy you're still kicking it with your girl. I look crazy, but you know we're gonna get it all the way together. I don't know when I'm actually gonna end up posting this video. It might, with the way life is going, it might end up being like Thanksgiving. So if I do end up posting this by Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving in advance. We'll see. No promises because I'm filming this now. I was about to say it's October. It is. Where's my brain? It's not even October. It is September, but I honestly don't know when I'll even have time to like edit this. I said let me film while I'm already doing my makeup and give the girls and the boys, you know, an update. When I get to editing and putting this together, I will do so. But how is everyone doing? It has been a whole hot minute. I want to say I've missed posting on YouTube, but I really have not. So I'm a truthful Barbie. We don't lie over here. You know, I kept going back and forth today after I came back from the gym of like, should I post a video? Do I not? Was the spirit moving to? Was it not? I said, you know what, why not? And at the end of the day, if I'm not feeling it, I don't have to. It's not by force. I post, and honestly, real life matters more than the internet. So we'll see what happens. And I have really been thinking more about like being intentional about what I do put out there, and if I am going to speak, if I'm going to talk, if I'm going to share, I want it to be very impactful, and I want to actually like have something to say. I don't want to just post for the sake of posting. And I definitely feel like that has kind of been my theme actually, like for a cool minute, even when I was posting infrequently, but more frequently. But I definitely think more so now, even though it's gonna be few and far between, when I do post, wanting to be very intentional about what is my message, who is my message for, and am I being spirit-led to share that message? Because there's a time and place for everything, and it's not everything that is going on that one has to share. Sometimes there's a season to just be, and then there's a season to like actually like have a testimony, or like a season to actually share. You have to say if there's anything to be said at all. I don't even know the last time or what I spoke about in my last video. I have not even looked at my YouTube, to be honest. And I do post on Instagram a bit more frequently, but still not as much. I think maybe I last left off maybe talking a little bit about third year, just a tad bit. I don't even remember, but right now, just too long, don't read, just so before like going back in time, I am taking a year off medical school. I am in a research year. If you had asked me if this is what I would be doing, if you had asked me if this is where I would be when I started medical school, first year medical school me would have been like, absolutely not. It's giving 4 years. I had like I really had a 10-year plan. You know, I am a very particular person. I had a 4-year plan down to like how many loans I was going to take out, how I was going to pay back those loans, down to like a very meticulous 10-year type of plan, even accounting for what kind of specialty I might be going into, how much I would get paid in that specialty, and how long it would take me to pay off my loans, and all of these kind of things. You know, like I had all this planned out like after I got into medical school, but before I started medical school. So like I really was someone who I thought I really had it all figured out. Honestly, I will just say God is God. God is God. Like that's all I can really say. God is God. I truly believe He wanted to use this year to really humble me in so many different ways. It was really giving character development that I did not ask for, but I guess we'll say was needed, because I've always known this, but I think this year, and I'm still realizing and trying to really tap into that, but I honestly truly believe that God has such a big purpose for my life, and there is a way he wants to use me that I can't even appreciate or imagine. To be used in that way and to reach that calling and that potential requires such a level of responsibility and growth that needed to happen. I will say that I think my third year of medical school was arguably, with the years I've lived, one of the worst years of my life. And one of the worst years of medical school. Within that, God is so good, and he has really shown me who he is, but also has really started to work in me, learning to let go of this concept of being in control or trying to plan and predict everything, which is something I've always felt I needed to do. And I think that's such like a very real thing about anyone going into medicine, is like, truly the people who end up going into medicine, there tends to be an element of that personality where you like to have the ability to plan, predict, and control things. Like, I cannot speak for everyone who is in medicine and all personality types, but I truly do believe there is an element of that, because the culture and the way medicine is, even to the journey of medicine, is one where there's this thought process: if I do X, Y, and Z, I should get this result, right? So it ideally caters to a personality type where if you do all the right things, if you plan and predict the right way, there should be a predictable outcome. And I think God really wanted to push me to unlearn that in a certain kind of way where it's like, yeah, you can do that, homegirl, but at the end of the day, if you don't trust in me and if you don't remember that you cannot do anything without me, all that predictability, all that planning really just goes out the window, you know? And the truth is, even in medicine too, even the science of medicine is not all black and white. There is a lot of gray in medicine. And I think one of the most frustrating things about medicine for me is like not being able to even give patients like all the answers they sometimes want or need to feel validated about the pain they're feeling or why something happened to them, which can be equally frustrating for a physician or, you know, a learner, where it's like, we cannot figure out why you're experiencing this, right? So it's like unsatisfying that we cannot use a test or imaging or anything to figure out what's going on with this person's body. But even more so frustrating for the patient, where it's like they're experiencing something that is so real to them and there's no answer, right? So it's like really being humbled in that way this year. It's still a growth phase for me, but I truly believe it is something that I may not fully understand quite yet, but with my limited understanding right now, I know it's because there is a higher calling on my life. And honestly, like when I even decided, me taking a research year for medical school was very multifactorial, actually. It's not like I even planned it. I actually decided a bit later in third year to actually take that year off. For those who don't know, because I know like I have a very diverse following on YouTube, for those who still follow me, RIP. First of all, because like even going to medical school, right? Like you're taking out loans. So talk less of taking a year off to do research, right? Or some people who take a leave of absence for health or whatever the case may be, right? So even getting a research year funded can be hard, and usually people who have decided to take a research year have probably contemplated that or thought about that at the beginning of their third year, and usually are applying to programs and things that are funded at the beginning of third year. So by the time that I had made this decision, which is a whole nother story, because I truly believe that journey to make that decision I really left that to God, and that's how it was confirmed that this was the right thing for me to do. I had already it was more than half of third year done, and I had a fourth year schedule, and I kind of already knew the specialties I may be applying into and things like that. I also knew that there was a lot I just don't know, should I just apply this year? Should I I was just in such a space of I honestly don't know. And I think what it was third year especially, and since step one really had put me in a space where I no longer even trusted my own decision-making ability. I didn't even trust my own sense of self. I didn't trust my inherent intelligence. I didn't trust my abilities, my capabilities. Third year especially, there's something about being in those clinical spaces. There's something about your grade, your evaluation kind of being at the mercy of how you're perceived, right? How your medical knowledge is perceived and all of those kind of things, and how what other people value and what it means to be a good clinician, which there are certain, I think, like objective standards, but then there are a lot of subjective standards to that as well. There's something about that that had just put me in a constant like autopilot state of anxiety the entire third year, and I think I just no longer trusted inherently who I was and what I brought to the table, and just how much of a force I am to be reckoned with. And I think when you allow your sense of self to get messed with, which is also like a tool the devil uses, honestly, and when you allow like that's what he attacks your mind. That's really what it is. Like once your mind gets attacked, like that is like the most powerful thing that can be done to anybody, really. I just couldn't even trust my own ability to decide like what is the best move. Like, should I continue with fourth year or do I take this research year? But yet my heart was so hardened to taking a research year, because I was like, no, like I had a plan since first year. Like I had this all calculated. Like this was not the plan. Like this is messing with my like all the things I thought the way things were supposed to go. And by this point, third year had already like went to shits, right? Third year did not go according to plan. Starting from step one, I had to change my schedule. Then I got like sick during third year, so it was like so many things had already it was like at this point I was like, shown like, girl, like hello, it's been a year since things have not been going according to plan. So at this point, are you really are you really shocked that like things are not moving according to the plan you had set out? I got to a place where I just hit a point where, I don't know, you just get to a space where like you can't make a decision, but also it's like you've already gotten advice from all the like people you trust, and like you weigh the pros and cons. Like I still couldn't make a decision, even with all the like objective, rational, logical stuff. And I was just like, I got to a place where I was like, the only person I could run to at this point was God. Like I literally, the only space, only place, the only person I could go to was God. And that's when I had resolved in my mind and in my heart that I was going to pray about the decision and just say, you know what, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what is the best decision for me, but you are the only person who has information about the past, present, and the future. Human beings, we operate off of information and we make decisions off of the past and our current knowledge and seeking advice. But the only person I knew I could trust was someone who is the past, present, and future. So I literally just prayed and fasted about it, and I didn't share that information with anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone that I was just waiting for an answer of like what I should do. And I think the beautiful thing about God is that He knows all of us. He knows how each and every one of us operate and work. And during the time I was like praying about it, I was still in clinical rotation, so the girls were still going to the hospital and stuff. But it was so weird that around the same time, randomly, I couldn't even tell you how it happened. Like my heart started getting softened to the concept of possibly taking that research year. And I started thinking about the value of a research year, not even from the standpoint of academic enrichment and all those things, but I started thinking of all the personal things I could gain from taking a year off medical school. I was like, it is giving gap year all over again. It is giving possibly having time to get back to passion projects and being able to do things that I love that I just could not do anymore just because of the way medical school became. Because especially third year, you no longer truly own your own time or control what you do and where you're supposed to be, because most of the time you're in the hospital, clinic, or whatever, and then you come home, you're tired, and you go to bed or study for the shelves or whatever, right? So all of a sudden I started thinking this research year thing may not be a bad idea, because now it'll be given kind of working again as opposed to being in school, which LOL, not even the case, because I'm in a grad program, but that's not the point. But it was low-key given what, this research year may not be a good idea. it will give gap year all over again. And honestly, I enjoyed my gap years before medical school because one, it gave me time to like grow before going to medical school, because you'll be surprised what kind of personalities you'll find in medical school. But also, I just got to like experience life before committing to a lifetime of misery. And I was like, you know what, this might not be a bad idea. So if God ultimately says that gap year, like, you know, research year it is, then who am I to question him, right? So God had already started working on my heart before I received an answer. And then literally by the time that answer had come, like everything had just come together, because when you submit to the will of God and when you submit and say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever you tell me to, or I'm just gonna go wherever you guide me, and your heart is already in that space, you will be so much more willing to follow God's lead, irrespective of how you personally feel. Because remember, I told y'all initially I was resistant to taking a research year because a lot of different reasons. Some I will share, some I won't. But when I finally got that answer, I was literally having a conversation with my dad on the phone about something completely like irrelevant. Like, it was my sister was gonna graduate in a couple months, and he was asking me if I had bought my flight for it, and I was like, sir, you can't be asking me about no flights right now, because I don't even know if I'm gonna be taking a research year or applying to residency. So like, I can't be thinking about, you know, flights right now, because I may very well be on a sub-I during that time. So I don't want to like buy a flight right now and then not really know. And I had previous conversations with my dad about this, and the last conversations we had, he was kind of like, oh, you know, maybe you should just like apply and blah, 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 blah. And it was so weird, because after me making that comment, he was like, oh, do you know what I think you should do?